The U.S. military recently carried out a heavy wave of strikes against Iranian and IRGC-linked targets, hitting dozens of locations across the south and west of the country. These operations resulted in at least 3 casualties, including a 2-year-old child on Kesh Island. These strikes served as retaliation for a missile attack on an American base in Jordan, ending a brief, days-long pause in the fighting between the two sides. The escalation followed a directive from President Trump, who vowed to hit Iran very hard to deter further aggression in the region. At the start of the conflict, the administration predicted the fighting would last only a few weeks. Instead, the war has now entered its 5th month, with no resolution in sight. This prolonged duration has exposed a critical vulnerability. The overwhelming firepower of the U.S. military is currently encountering a hard physical limitation. Planners refer to this as magazine depth, the total inventory of deployable munitions available within a theater of operations. Tactical success on the battlefield relies on the ability to logistically sustain a high volume of precision-guided fire over a long period. This expanding geography suggests the war is moving into territory where U.S. kinetic dominance faces its steepest logistical challenges. U.S. operations in the Middle East depend on 2 primary assets: long-range Tomahawk strike missiles and Patriot air defense interceptors. Defending against regional attacks while conducting retaliatory strikes has required an intensely high tempo of usage for these weapons. Their massive physical footprint makes them difficult to store and transport in bulk. Reports from Central Command indicate that in-theater stacks of these munitions have reached critically low levels. This model shows the inventory burn rate. These are complex, low-yield items that cannot be quickly replenished from the factory floor. Over 5 months of combat, the expenditure rate plummets toward 0, while the global manufacturing rate for replacements remains flat. This depletion raises questions about whether the U.S. can sustain the same intensity of operations seen during historical campaigns like Operation Epic Fury. Any future retaliatory strikes will likely have to decrease in both physical scale and frequency to preserve what remains of the stockpile. Industrial supply chain constraints now dictate the pacing and scale of U.S. military operations in the region. Iranian officials recognize they cannot defeat the American military in a conventional head-to-head fight. Their counter-strategy relies on geographic expansion. By widening the threat radius, they force the U.S. to spread its limited air defense batteries across an increasingly vast area. This is visible in recent strikes targeting Jordan, where air defense systems were forced to intercept 5 incoming Iranian missiles. Another strike hit a building in northern Kuwait, further stretching the defensive perimeter. The expansion has reached as far as the Mediterranean. A drone attack caused a fire on 2 gas storage vessels at the port of Damietta, threatening critical energy infrastructure. This is the first time Egypt has been directly drawn into the conflict since it broke out 5 months ago. To the south, Iran-backed Houthis have declared a naval blockade in the Red Sea, launching attacks on vessels in a crucial global trade corridor. These Houthi attacks are in retaliation for Saudi airstrikes on Sana'a airport, which were carried out to prevent Iranian planes from delivering supplies. By drawing countries like Egypt and Kuwait into the fray, Iran increases the mathematical burden on U.S. global defense resources. Iran's strategy is built on a doctrine of resilience. They calculate that they only need to survive the kinetic phase of the war to achieve their objectives. Striking targets like the Damietta port and the Strait of Hormuz is a calculated attempt to disrupt global energy flows. This chart tracks the resulting economic pressure. As global trade volume drops due to shipping disruptions, global oil prices surge, creating a new form of leverage. Iran is absorbing immense domestic damage to maintain this pressure, with a plummeting currency and a shattered economy. They are trading short-term economic destruction for the hope that compounding global pressure will eventually force a U.S. withdrawal. Firepower alone cannot secure a victory if the adversary can successfully outlast the physical inventory of the missile stockpile. Both sides understand that a return to the negotiating table is the only probable endgame. Iran uses this geographic escalation to ensure that when talks begin, they hold the upper hand. By stretching defenses to their limit and disrupting the world economy, they create a situation where the U.S. is incentivized to find a rapid exit. Ending the conflict under these conditions would allow Iran to secure a deal on terms that favor their regional interests. For the U.S., such a negotiated settlement would be difficult to characterize as a strategic success. In modern asymmetric warfare, the endurance of the industrial supply chain determines who holds the ultimate strategic advantage.